Hi everyone. It's 4 minutes to 7:30, so maybe we can just get started. I can do a brief introduction as people continue to join. So, my name is Ian Gitaka. I am a counselor or therapist. They can be used interchangeably from Mental 360, and I will be taking you through today's Ask a Therapist Live. So, the goal of this live, or the reason we set it up, is to allow members of the public to ask questions related to mental health or anything you've always wanted to ask a therapist. This is your chance. Today is your day. You can ask the questions in the comments or use the question feature to ask. Also, September is World Suicide Prevention Month. So if you also have any questions regarding suicide prevention, feel free to ask. And also just feel free to ask any questions that you might have on your mind. So yeah, feel free, feel safe. I will answer your questions to the best of my ability and hope that by the end of this, you'll all have gained something. This session runs for 1 hour, so 7:30 to 8:30. Of course, it's 1 hour depending. So if there's still questions being asked at 8:30, can still allow a bit more time to answer them. But the format, or for formality purposes, it'll run for an hour. So yeah, you can start sending your questions in. D. Odawa has asked, how can you handle emotional burnout? So, emotional burnout is a situation where you help, if you're working in we call them helper careers. So, careers where you have to help people with their issues, or you're the one helping them get through challenging stuff. And as people in those careers can tell you, sometimes you can actually experience burnout. Helper careers are like counseling, nursing, people who work in any care industry. So you can experience burnout from, it's sort of like giving a lot of emotional care without really taking breaks or getting a chance to rest. So how one can handle this is practicing self-care, or find ways to practice good self-care. This means taking breaks. I know sometimes breaks can be hard depending on the nature of your job, but even short breaks, taking care of your, like, the basic needs. Are you sleeping well? Are you eating enough? Are you drinking enough water? It could be trying to assign some of the duties you have to other people, or asking for help from other people around you to help you out so you also don't crash from said burnout. But generally, it's finding ways to take breaks when possible. Take as many as you can, or as many as is possible. And also just finding ways to take care of yourself. So self-care is also very, very important to avoid burnout. And I think it's also helpful to know when you're about to burn out or when you're getting there, because I think most of us are able to tell, or well, most people can tell when they're experiencing stress, but they may not know when that stress is turning into burnout. So it's also important to be able to tell when you're getting close to burnout, and some of the things that can let you know you're getting close. Maybe you've always enjoyed your job, or you enjoy helping people, but now it suddenly starts feeling like a burden, or you feel like you're starting to lose that psych for reporting to your job. Things like that can let you know maybe I'm getting a bit tired and I need to take a break. So that's also something that can help you tell when you're close to burnout. I hope I've answered your question, D. Rifa asks, how does one stop self-harm? So self-harm is anything you do to intentionally injure yourself. So one of the examples we have is cutting. That's self-harm, and is usually a risk behavior, or a behavior that can let us counselors know that the person is at risk of suicidal ideation, so they normally start with self-harm. So how does one stop? I'd say first and foremost, reach out to a counselor or a professional counselor to help you, take you through therapy, help you find out what is the underlying issue that's making you self-harm. You can also try other practices such as grounding techniques when the urge to self-harm comes up. Grounding, we have techniques like breathing exercises, there's grounding techniques, there's other things someone can do to distract themselves, such as taking a walk, working out, holding an ice cube in your hand and just focusing on how cold your hand feels. So those serve as distractions. You can also talk to a friend or family member that you trust. I'm assuming the people you would trust would either fall within your friends or family, and probably not strangers. So you could talk to them, tell them what you're going through. But if you feel like you don't have anyone to talk to, that's why we therapists are here. And yeah, also journaling your thoughts and feelings can help, because maybe you want to get them out, but you don't have anyone to tell, but you want to express them somewhere. So journaling can also help you with that. Rifa, have I answered your question? You can also ask for clarifications. Boss Baby Mental Health Advocate says, most young people are so into drug addiction, especially alcohol, and they say they're escaping their problems. How do we help them? And also those who get worse and become drug-induced illnesses. So I think on an individual level, if you know someone who is in alcohol addiction, so either you know someone or you are in alcohol addiction, I'll try to answer like I'm speaking to both of those people. So reach out and talk to these people. What happens with addiction is, a lot of the time when you start out, like that experimenting phase, ama time mtu huonja alcohol, it's more out of curiosity or experimenting, or the youth, young people are in the age where they want to try new things, experiment, discover, etc. So it starts out of curiosity, but then as as it slowly becomes a habit, and by the time it's turning into addiction, they find that they are now using it to cope with other things they haven't resolved or don't want to resolve, or the things that they find themselves pushing down. So it starts with, so they'll go from the curiosity phase to leo niko stressed, acha nikunywe, leo nasikia vibaya, acha nikunywe, leo nimeboeka, etc. So by the time they're reaching that point of wanting to escape from their problems with alcohol, that means there's these underlying issues that they have, or these problems that they're trying to escape. And for a lot of these people, the only way they'll be able to escape this addiction is by first starting with those underlying problems. So if you are reaching out to someone like this, I think it requires patience and openness to give them that chance to just talk, share, so they don't feel judged. They'll probably give various reasons: life pressure, stress, academic pressure, uh, economic pressure. I know for a lot of people, ni pesa, or like money right now is a very heavy, it's very stressful for a lot of people right now. You'll also hear cases of stuff like liquid courage, etc. So all these are pointing to what the underlying issue is that they are trying to then cope with alcohol. So I'd say being able to help this person's underlying issues is more likely to help them actually recover from the addiction. Boss baby, have I answered your question? Karibu. And keep the questions coming. Also, something else with addiction. You can also tell these people to reach out and talk to a therapist. Most of the time, you'll find for the people who need talk therapy is for the people who need talk therapy. Sometimes, if the underlying issues can be solved with talk therapy, they are able to recover. But if it's depending on the stage of addiction they are in, they might need rehab services. So when they go to a rehab, they'll be detoxed and then kept off of alcohol for that period of 3 months, just to be able to detox to a point where they're actually able to talk and go through the therapy process. So maybe also that can also be taken into consideration when reaching out to talk to this person, or which service you will end up recommending to them. Yokabi asks, how is functional depression different from kawaida depression? I'd ask for clarification, kawaida depression ni gani? But when we say functional, it's more like a shorthand term for this person has the symptoms, they are diagnosed with depression, but they are able to function in society. Or rather, they have the symptoms, but it doesn't prevent them from doing some of the things they need to do. So I'm sure you've also heard of the term functional alcoholic. This is someone who is addicted to alcohol, they drink, but they show up to work, they work. You might not notice because they're able to do the things they want to do, and it doesn't prevent them from doing those things. So that's what we mean by functional. I'd say, maybe I'm not sure what you mean by kawaida depression, but I think depression, it varies with the severity. Different people handle things differently, and also all of our brains, while it's the same organ, they are not the same. So there will be what I can handle and someone else can't handle. And then there'll be someone who can handle way more than I could imagine is possible to handle when it comes to things like stress. So you'll find some people will have they might have different severity, but you'll just notice they have varying functionality based on how well they're able to cope with things. So maybe if I'm understanding your question correctly, I'd say hakuna tofauti, inategemea tu na severity ya the symptoms that person is experiencing. If you can ask for clarification in case you need further clarification, Yokabi. Post Baby asks, how do we support victims of rape or sexual violence who never got support and are able to share but are afraid of therapy? Maybe as a fellow youth or a friend, how do I help such? So, as a friend, I think the best thing you can do is being that person's safe space and letting that person know they can always reach out to you if they want to talk. They will not be judged. They'll feel open to just express themselves and share out what they went through. Since this is normally a traumatic experience for a lot of people, even just being able to share or talk to someone sort of helps them to vent in a way. And that venting can sometimes be a weight off their shoulder. And then while they may be afraid of therapy for various reasons, maybe the traumatic experience made them not trust people, maybe they had a bad past experience with therapy, maybe they want to avoid therapists who may remind them of their perpetrators. So these are all understandable. So as a friend, for the most part, just being there to listen to them and let them talk, because while you may not be able to offer them professional help, as a friend, just being there for that person to let them talk is normally good enough. And also just providing any other support they might need to and being patient with them. There'll be days they're energetic, they'll have good days and bad days. So also being able to support them through their good days but also through their bad days, it really goes a long way. Have I answered you, boss baby? Remember, you can type out questions in the comments or in the question feature nitaweza kuona zote. Karibu sana boss baby. Yambu asks, how do you handle rejection and self-confidence while pregnant? So yes, this sometimes does happen. You'll find that you're with someone, and then after getting pregnant, you either experience rejection, and that rejection can affect your confidence levels. So this rejection it does hurt, and sometimes you can find it can hurt to a point where this actually ends up eroding your self-confidence. But now, after processing and maybe sitting with those feelings a bit, you find you want to basically build back your confidence. So there's some practices you can try to help build your confidence a bit. And these are, we have positive self-talk and self-affirmation. So positive self-talk just means when, like ukijiangalia kwa kioo, let me use a little example. If you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're finding positive things about yourself, and either saying them out loud or saying them to yourself kichini chini, or even just thinking them. I would personally encourage saying them out loud. It might feel weird at first, which is okay. And then it's a practice you practice over and over until you start to notice that as you continue with the positive self-talk, it slowly starts making you view yourself more positively or think about yourself more positively. Because that act of positive self-talk it's like forcing your brain to think of positive things when it's having the negative thoughts, which are coming from the low confidence triggered by the rejection. And then self-affirmation also, they're pretty close. So positive self-talk just means you say good things about yourself. When you're feeling down, you don't beat yourself up. But self-affirmation are now specific phrases you can tell yourself whenever you're feeling down or time unataka kujihype up. So it could be a phrase of your choosing works best. What is it you say to yourself to hype yourself up? I know Kenyans have many different examples, but you choose the one that works for you best. And then you practice it slowly until you start to feel like, I think I'm actually starting to believe the positive things I'm saying about myself. I hope I've answered you. I am Nyambu. DJ Ilwiz asks, what are the symptoms of high functioning depression? I think I may have it. So, I will just list the symptoms of depression. Remember, that high functioning bit is not a formal diagnosis you can get. You can only get diagnosed with major depressive disorder, which is the full name for depression. Functioning would just mean that you have the symptoms but are able to function. So some of the symptoms of depression include losing interest in things you used to enjoy before, change in appetite. So if you used to eat, now you're not hungry at all, or like you can go pretty long without feeling any hunger. If you used to eat little, now you find you're eating way more. Change in sleep patterns. So this could be oversleeping or insomnia, lacking sleep. Change in eating patterns, sleeping patterns. Also, sometimes you'll find you want to sleep like throughout the day because you also lack that energy. There is feeling, it's almost like feeling lethargic, like you don't have motivation to do things anymore. General feelings of hopelessness, and sometimes it will also come with suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation. So sana, these are the types of symptoms you want to look out for, and they have to last 2 weeks or more. So 2 weeks consistently. If you think you have depression, I'd encourage you to seek out a counselor or seek out professional help to actually find out what's actually going on. And if that's what you have, the counselors are able to formally diagnose you and then give you like intervention, or basically give you the skills you'll need to be able to now cope with your particular symptoms. Because again, not everyone experiences all the symptoms. You experience some of them, but consistently. So it's easier to get help, or like it's like you're getting help that is tailor-made for you, because as you're building that counseling relationship, your counselor gets to understand you and they're able to give you what can actually work for you. I hope I've answered your question. Boss Baby asks, let's talk about someone who's struggling with imposter syndrome because of their bringing, maybe shaming from home, by a parent or school. How do you help in such a case? So imposter syndrome is where someone has achieved like a certain level of success, or they're achieving good things in life, but they feel like they don't deserve them. So if they've gotten a job, they feel like, I don't know how I got here. I don't deserve this job. I feel like something happened, or a mistake happened and I got the job. But I feel like I don't deserve that job, or I feel like I'm not good enough to have been given that job. For someone like this, it is common. If you grew up being shamed for things or being discouraged anytime you try things, hiyo itakuwa na effect, because slowly your self-esteem is eroded and you start feeling like you don't deserve good things in your life. So to be able to unlearn that, one thing that can help is learning to sort of be present in situations. And to add on that, learning to focus on what's happening around you, what's happening in the moment. And what I mean by this is, if you applied for something and actually got the job, well, your thoughts might be telling you, I don't think I'm good enough for this, or I don't think I deserve this. The reality is they chose you, and it is likely they chose you because they feel like you fit, or they feel like you meet the requirements, or they feel like you have something that made them choose you over the other people that didn't get chosen. So that must mean, while you feel like you don't deserve said good thing, other people are seeing these qualities in you that make you worthy of that position or that job or that good thing that's happening in your life. So it's like you're trying to separate your negative thoughts from what you're seeing happen around you. Kama mtu amekupea kazi, it's because they think you meet the requirements. If someone compliments your work, most likely they are just complimenting your work because they think it looks good. So that's what I mean by focusing on the present. You're trying to teach yourself to focus on what's happening outside of me, not what's happening in my mind or what my thoughts are saying at the time. Of course, also positive self-talk, self-affirmation, they also help with this, but that's now something else you can also do to add on to that, because utapata when you focus on what's happening or how other people are treating you, it's more likely that you may feel like an imposter in that situation, but most probably uko sawa. And if you weren't, you would know, because they'd either criticize you or tell you you've done something wrong. Or if I'm using the example of a job, if for sure you weren't fit for that job, you wouldn't stay there for long. I hope I've answered that. Boss Baby asks, how do you set boundaries if you ever had a traumatic upbringing and now it's affecting you as an adult? So having a traumatic upbringing also does affect you. You'll find it challenging to assert your boundaries because maybe you've never gotten a chance to set them. Maybe the people around you used to walk all over you, or maybe you just weren't raised in an environment that was enabling for you to have that personal agency. And now, as an adult, you find you've been given more freedom, so there's not a lot of people controlling your life. But now that you've been given that control, it becomes hard to manage because you didn't get the chance to gain those skills as you grow up, because normally people gain these skills as they grow up. So how to set boundaries? The first thing is just having that self-awareness. If you're having challenges setting boundaries, the first question to ask yourself is, do I know what boundaries I want to set? If you're having challenges with that, a good question to ask yourself is, what are some of the things I'm okay with being done to me? Or what are some of the things I am not okay with? What can I tolerate? What can I not tolerate? Some of these can serve as the first steps to creating those boundaries. Or other leading questions you could ask yourself, what is a non-negotiable for me, whether regarding myself or regarding other people, and what do I not like but it's sort of negotiable. This can also help form your boundaries. So the non-negotiable ones can form hard boundaries, and hard boundaries are the ones you don't like, they can never be crossed. Negotiable boundaries mean they shouldn't be crossed but can be crossed depending on the situation. And then another good question to ask yourself is, okay, now that I'm setting boundaries, what will I do when someone crosses them? Since if you're setting boundaries, that means ni vitu zimefanyika before. So that means even in the future, there will be people who will cross them. So now how do I assert these boundaries when the next person crosses them? And hapo I'll say, I'll leave it up to you to choose how to deal with people who cross said boundaries. Of course, the options are many. Blocking, avoiding, not talking to this person, talking to them, calling them out, etc. As long as the option you're choosing is within reason, I'd say I leave it up to you to decide how you will go about what you'll do once these boundaries have been crossed. The next one is, how can you handle realizing that you suffer from adverse early childhood experiences and feel like talking to the parent responsible for causing that trauma? So Okay, maybe I can just explain what early ad, yes, adverse childhood experiences are. So, adverse childhood experiences are experiences experienced in your childhood may that are traumatic or potentially traumatic for you. Some examples are physical abuse, sexual abuse, witnessing violence in the home, losing a parent, either to or witnessing divorce, losing a parent. So if your parents passed away when you were young, sometimes adverse experiences can also be growing up in poverty, depending on what your experiences were like. If your parents struggled to make ends meet, and you, as a child, witnessed that and you're able to process the things happening around me because we don't have enough money to make ends meet, stuff like that. Those are adverse childhood experiences. Now, sometimes when you grow up, there's that, you'll have that, uh, I don't know that to call it a need or a desire to want to talk to the person or the parent who caused you trauma as a child. And you may have many reasons for that. Maybe it's to gain back that power, maybe it's to call them out, maybe it's to just let them know what you did hurt me, and like just to like call it out and put everything on the table. I would mostly ask, if you want to talk to that parent, what is it you hope that conversation will change or achieve? The answer to that may help guide whether you choose to talk to this parent or not. So sometimes, let me give, maybe I'll use a less likely example. If the desire to talk to that parent is coming from a place where you want them to see the mistake they made and maybe feel bad or feel remorse, it is likely, if that's how they were in the past and they've not changed in the present, that may not happen. So for that person, I tell them, maybe it wouldn't be beneficial to you to have this conversation. But on the other side, if they say they want to talk to the person just to feel at peace or to finally air it out or to just say it out loud and let it go, I'd say that person can go ahead and talk to this person, because what they want out of it is possible to achieve. So I know that may not be the best answer, but when handling such cases, you ask yourself, what is it I hope to get out of the thing I want to do? If it's beneficial, if it's realistic, if it will actually help me or aid me in my healing journey, I'll go ahead. But if it's not going to help me heal, I can either choose not to, or think about it a bit longer, or wait a bit longer until I feel a bit more settled. Have I answered you, D? You can keep the questions coming. Maybe I could also ask a question just to gauge. So September is Suicide Prevention Month. So maybe you can just type in the comment, when you think of suicide prevention, what comes to mind? Boss Baby says, thank you so much for the answers. I hope you don't mind. I can read out your I can read your response out loud. Let me know if you mind. So thank you so much for the answers. Much appreciation to Mentor 360's conversations, for conversations that save lives. I am a strong woman because of the therapy I go through in Mentor 360. I can also send you a shout out to him. I don't know if he's here with us, but I'll send Mtatuma Salamu. Simply Zizi asks, when is the next night with creatives? When is the next night with creatives? The first one was really empowering. Do you mean the Cradle Arts event? If so, maybe clarify. The tough law for someone who has tried suicide. Yeah, I do agree. It's a tough law because ideally this ideally these people should be getting help or intervention, not punished, because it feels like you're being punished for having mental health challenges. So yeah, I do agree. I think for like mental health organizations, we do try to help or just offer help to anyone who has attempted suicide. Simply easy. Maybe I can confirm this for you when the next one will be. So when we have the specific dates, I'm sure it will be posted. But I can confirm, then it will be communicated. And yes, I do agree they need help, not jail time. If you have someone in your family struggling with suicide or suicidal ideation, I'd encourage you to take them to a professional counselor first, because it's help that they need. I know people say it's a cry for help. It is someone they feel like they have no more options left, so that's what pushes them to consider suicide. So being there for them and letting them know that they can get help and they can talk to someone. We are here for them to talk to. Sometimes even that's just enough to let them know. Even if you feel like you may have no other options left, there's still people who want to help. So refer them to counselors, to any therapist you know. Refer them to Mentor 360. Refer them also to our helpline, which should be on the page, but I can just read it out loud because it's 0710 360 360. So anyone who is struggling with suicidal thoughts or suicidal ideation, they can just make a call and there'll be someone on the other side of the call to help them, or to help them and talk to them and actually be able to provide intervention for them. Steps we can take to ensure that not another soul is lost through suicide. So, individually, if you know someone struggling with suicidal thoughts, of course, being there for them helps. Asking them if there's someone they'd like to talk to can also help. Letting this person know that if they ever need someone to talk to, they can reach out. Sometimes you can like visit them. It, I'm looking for the other term for babysitting, but that's not the correct term. But just being there with them when they're struggling with these thoughts, to help them out. Then I think, like on a larger level, like on a community level, it means if we know these people, don't ostracize them, don't judge them. It's mental health care that they need, not punishment or incarceration, because that's not something that will help them. So referring them to counselors, if there's a counselor near you, or if there's any mental health care around them, that helps. Also, just having nice community setups where someone can get social support, because sometimes also someone who has suicidal ideation, they feel very alone and isolated. So even just feeling like there's a community around me might make me reconsider, or say, if these people around me care, I can hold out, or I can reconsider. Post Baby says, my friend lost his brother through suicide. He has always been victimizing himself all through, and I find it hard to always tell them things will be okay. And when they ask when, what do I do? I'm afraid they might end up that end because they have always been giving weird signs. So for your case, I would say refer. It actually, witnessing someone else in your family die by suicide puts you at a higher risk, especially if it affected you deeply. So this person, your friend should also talk to someone. I appreciate that you've also been able to talk to them and being able to do what you can. So keep doing that. But also, the good thing is that you're aware and you've sort of noticed these signs. So tell them there's people they can talk to, refer them to us. We'll be able to help him if maybe he's struggling with it. Maybe it was a traumatic experience for him. If he's blaming himself, maybe he feels like it was his fault, or like there's something he could have done. And in real sense, if you don't know, there's normally not much that could have been done. So being able to know these signs is helpful. So maybe just refer them to us. Or yeah, you can also tell them what your therapy experience has been like and see if they'll accept. Since it's also a voluntary process, you extend the offer and then let them decide. A brother had called and he was in a meeting, so he didn't pick the call. So the moment he got out, he got this message that the brother has committed suicide. It's rough for him. So now that we are here, the following comment is, he refused therapy, akasema yeye hajachizi. So maybe I can help demystify what therapy is for, and maybe this is the wording you can give them. So therapy is not for watu wamechizi. Therapy is for anyone who wants to talk to a counselor. There are many reasons someone can want to talk to a counselor. It could be mental illness, it could be stress, it could be they just want someone to talk to, they might want to vent. Some come looking for advice, some even come like looking for very specific advice, and the minute they get the answer, they feel like they're satisfied. So I know, of course, you might tell him this and he might still not want therapy, but having the right information out there also goes a long way. So the same way when you go to a doctor, you can go because you have a cold, you can go because you're feeling tired, you can go because you've injured a part of your body, you noticed symptoms. Some people will go because of migraines, some will go because of serious illnesses, and some get rushed to hospital. But also, there are people who go to hospital just to consult or just to find out if like am I living my life the right way or the healthiest way I can? And all these people go to hospital to see the doctor, and the doctor is able to help all of them. So it's the same case for therapy. Someone can come because they are stressed, someone can come because they're feeling they are experiencing life pressures and aren't able to cope on their own, and the therapist helps them to find ways to cope. So we don't just talk to mentally ill people, we talk to anyone or everyone who is willing, because everyone has challenges or issues. And for those who are unable to cope on their own, it's okay for them to seek further help. And if you're able to cope on your own, or if you're able to figure stuff out on your own, that's also well and good, since hata sisi tunataka everyone to be able to handle things on their own. So that might help your friend, it might not. It's ultimately in his hands whether he'll choose to talk to a therapist or not. But for you, the best you can do is be there for him and just be there to listen to him talk. There's not a lot of advice you might be able to tell him that will change his mind, since he also is probably processing this at his own pace, and that's okay. Yeah, I do agree it's tough. Your efforts, I'm sure, are not futile. I'm sure zinamsaidia. So just keep at it. Can keep the questions coming. And so far from the ones that have been asked, I hope mmepata enough clarification. For the people who are still joining in, or the ones who've just joined in, we are having this Ask a Therapist live. It's to create awareness to the general public. So any question you wanted to ask related to mental health, therapy, counseling, psychiatry, counseling psychologist, hizo topics zote, feel free to ask. Today is your day, so mko na hiyo chance ya kuuliza. So you can ask any question you've been curious about. It could be something you're struggling with, something someone else is struggling with that you know, or just general mental health related topics or psychology related topics that you've always been curious about. You can keep them coming. Are there any other questions that you would like to ask, or that you would like to ask a therapist? Okay, so I'm seeing we have like 9 minutes left. D asks, can someone facing mental health challenges heal through coping mechanisms without seeing a therapist? Yes, yes, someone can. It's very possible. Um, I think it's important for all of us, or like for people to realize we are all different, and everyone has struggled with one thing or another in their life, and some people have been able to figure out stuff on their own without a counselor's intervention or without needing to talk to someone. So it is possible, but I won't say that to discount that sometimes you can, it's okay to seek help, but also it doesn't mean everyone who won't seek help will not be able to resolve, because it also depends on what you're struggling with. So if the mental health challenge is something like stress, sometimes you're able to learn how to deal with stress, or as you grow up, you learn better coping mechanisms. And either you learn this by seeing them somewhere, or sometimes life will just teach you the hard way how to deal with some things. And now that lived experience almost becomes a learning, it's a learning experience, and it's something that can actually be used to help other people. So yeah, different approaches can help. Kuna mwenye ataweza kucope on their own, and there's ones maybe I can just take in the last questions. And maybe I can also mention what Mentor 360 does. So we are a mental health organization whose primary service is affordable therapy to the public. So we do offer counseling services, which can be inquired more through our helpline or reaching out to us through our different contacts. So that's through the helpline, which is 0710 360 360. Through Instagram, you can send DMs to ask further. Also, even asking questions. Kama ulikuwa na swali and for one reason or another you aren't able to ask during the live, you can send it in the DMs and it'll be answered. You can also reach out to us through our email, info@mentor360.or.ke, or also through our website. All those avenues are available to talk to us. Reach out to us through our social media. We'll respond and help. And yes, encourage people to seek counseling services if you've noticed they might have the need, or anyone who wants to talk to a therapist. That's what we're here for. And yeah, now as people who have maybe attended this live, pia mnaweza kuwa ambassadors of mental health. Anything that you've learned or any new info that you've learned today is something you can share with other people, share with your friends, family, so that we can also put effort in spreading the right information out there. And you never know who it might actually help or reach, or whose mind it might help change. Are there any other questions from? Okay, so it's 8:26. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you everyone for showing up, for asking questions, and for participating. Because of course without your participation, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this. So thank you for showing up. These public engagements are very important because we want to make sure everyone has the knowledge. The first step in changing mental health in Kenya is informing people and making sure they have the right information. And that's why we do things like this. So thank you, everyone. If there are no more questions, we can end the live. Or you may leave at your own pleasure, but I'll keep it open till 8:30. Okay, I think we can end the live. Thank you, guys. Have a good night and enjoy the rest of your weeks. We'll see each other the next time we have this live. Thank you.